In Chapter 4, Lesson 4, we're going to change it up a little bit. We've spent so much time talking about immigrants in urban America and the difficulties that those immigrants had working in those factories coming to America. We're going to change gears. We're going to focus on how in rural America, the access to jobs and pay and transportation, cultural opportunities, it's significantly less. You're not going to get those same kinds of opportunities. Really, what you're going to be limited to if you're living in rural America is going to be primarily farms. And we're going to see how Americans are going to try to change their opportunities politically in order to improve their lives in rural America on those farms. So in this first section, ultimately what we're going to talk about is something called a high tariff. Now, we've discussed tariffs before, right? We've talked about them as taxes, things that are taxed when they come from other countries, so that Americans who make goods at home, in this case things that are produced on a farm, that they're going to be able to charge cheaper prices than things made overseas. And we're going to talk about how those tariffs are designed to protect, particularly in rural America, farms. So let's jump to it, because what we have to understand here is that right after the Civil War, a number of things are going to happen. And in particular, what we need to understand is that after the Civil War, there's a lot of money available, but there's nothing to buy with it. And there's a couple of reasons for that, of course. Ultimately, the two big reasons why there's a ton of money available is that the government had to, well, essentially print money in order to pay off its war debt, right? I mean, you have to pay for a war, right? So you need money to do that. And so the government is going to print more money to pay for its debt, and it's also going to take out more loans to pay for its war. So it's not just going to print everything, it's also going to take out loans to pay for those things. But that's great that there's a lot of money kind of floating around there, but there's no industry out there to pay for any of this besides the industry that's producing, war materials. No, and you don't need to buy a cannon. The average American doesn't have to go out and buy a 10-pound Napoleon, right? So just remember, here is our timeline to kind of make you understand this, right? The Civil War itself is going to be taking place from 1861 to 1865. That's when our government is printing all this money to pay for its debt. That's when the government's taking out all these loans. And that's when all the industry is busy making war materials. So we're not making anything else at the time. So you're going to have a ton of money available, and you're not going to have anything to buy with it. Note when the Gilded Age and the Second Industrial Revolution begin, 1870. So all of a sudden, you've got this 5-year period here, at least 5-year period, where there's going to be a lot of money, but not a lot of things to buy with it. So we're going to take a look here over time as to what this does for Americans and how Americans are trying to deal with this. In particular, here's what happens when you have a lot of money in circulation, but nothing to buy with it. It's called inflation. So let's take a look at what inflation looks like. Inflation is when there is a decline in the value of money. Money is worth less. The definition is right here. To help you understand what that looks like, I chose this little chart right here. $20 at the top of each little part of this image, right? $20 here, here, and here. In 1972, $20 could buy you all of this food. Your money is worth quite a lot. However, there was more money available in the economy for different reasons in 1992. That same $20 only buys you this much. There's been a decline in your value. It's worth less because you can buy less with it. 2012, inflation occurs. The same $20 is there. You can buy even less still with that $20. So what you have is a decline in the value of the same $20 over time. This is going to be especially visible in a variety of different things. And I called some other images up here to help you see inflation, right? So here's the cost of eggs in 1982. 95 cents for a dozen eggs. In 2012, it's $1.77. It's an 86% increase. Your money is worth less. This is what's going to happen, okay? Because when you have inflation, if money is worth less, you have to give people more of it to buy things. That $20 buys less over time. I'm not going to take $20 if it's worth less. You're going to have to give me more to buy the same amount of stuff. If you want to buy the same amount of stuff in 1992 as you did in 1972, you're going to need $30. You want to buy the same amount of stuff in 1972 as you did in 2012, you're going to need even more than that. You're going to be like 50, $60, right? So you have to give people more money to buy the same amount of things because it's worth less. So when you look at the price of eggs, I have to give you more money in 2012 than I did in 1982 because it's worth less. Same could be said for gas. 1982, gas was $1.28. 2012, it's $3.87. I got to give you more money for the same gallon of gas because it's worth less. You can see that for bread, orange juice, each of them costing more. I have to give you more of it because it's worth less. Okay? That's a really important concept to understand. That when the value of money falls, it's worth less, so you have to give people more of it. You can even see it in movie tickets, right? Cost of movie tickets over time as the dollar is worth less, right? From 7 cents in 1910 up to $8 for an average movie ticket price in 2013. It's worth less. So we have to give you more of it to get the same thing. That's really bad for farmers because they're not able to get the things that they need because there's tons of money out there. That's terrible, right? It's worth less. That's going to hurt farmers because they're not going to be able to get their money. So what you're going to do here is you're going to try and help farmers by getting people to buy American. Tariffs is the concept behind that. And I know we've discussed tariffs before. You can see an example here, right, where food coming in from Europe costs $1. Our government puts a tariff or tax of 25 cents on it. So when it comes to America, the same food is worth $1.25. Farmers can charge $1.24 made in America. People are going to buy the American-made good, not the European-made good because it's too expensive. So farmers here are going to be looking at finding a way to help themselves. They're going to try and survive inflation by making sure that people are buying American. That tariff makes the food coming in from Europe even more expensive, so even with inflation, people will buy American-made products. That's the idea, anyway. This is obviously a problem, and the government's going to try and fix inflation.